So what is behind the light body activation and mergence with this higher aspect of spirit? We'll be exploring this today from the Hermetic alchemical perspective. So the path of becoming and unbecoming, this is the transformation out of form and back into form. Into and out of form under the purview of your light body. This is very important because you can have movement along the vibrational scale into and out of form under other aspects of intelligence. So we ideally want to make sure that it is our highest that is organizing these transformations. So this interplay of electric and magnetic forces within the field, this is basically what we're looking at here. And it's this interplay of electromagnetic forces that make up the vibrational scale, and then we end up riding this into light, or riding it across the Akashic bridge into light. Now, if you want to begin understanding the interplay of electric and magnetic, one of the best ways to do that is to explore the elements. And one of the best ways to explore the elements is to spend a lot of time in nature, where the elements are always doing their dance. You'll see them engaging in the laws of the elements all the time, and the elements are fractal in nature, so you have the elemental play at each layer of the vibrational scale, which is really phenomenal once you begin exploring that. Now, the aspect of alignment is very, very important when it comes to activating the higher light bodies. Very often this is looked at as mind and heart coherence, or alignment of resonance, right? Frequency resonance and alignment within those resonances. That creates a cumulative wave type of effect, or a cumulative field type of effect, depending on how you're working this. Now, there's more at play here than merely the mind and the heart. They are two very important centers that we work with. Now, in Hermetics, we look at the physical and vital body, the astral body, the mental body. And these all have their centers, their bodies, and their fields. So when we work from this perspective, this allows us to function within each of those bodies, get to know each one really well, get to know the center of each of these bodies, and of course get to know the fields. And these mirror quite strongly the lower, middle, and upper dantians in Taoism. There's a bit of an illusion of free will, of choice, of creation, your creative force and conviction that comes from the power of aligning the bodies and aligning the fields. And when we have this coherence, this is a massive increase in power because everything's aligned, everything's going the same direction. And when we begin to have these experiences, this is where you can have the uprising of delusions of grandeur. So while alignment is incredibly important, what we are aligned to matters. When the heart opens, when the mind opens, and when the matrices that are connecting these soften up enough that transformation can occur, the energy can pass through and things can change and evolve. What we are realigning to, what the resonance is coming, what we're coming into resonance with is very important. So we want to keep that in mind, and this will help us from seeing ourselves as beings of grandiosity. Now, from the perspective of form-up training, that is where it's a longer process, and that's sort of the alchemical wedding type of training, which is a deep exploration, like I mentioned earlier, of the electric and magnetic forces as they spread through the elements, rising, weaving, and wrapping, to eventually marry in the center of the mental body, in the center of the head, which is basically the cave of Brahma area. And when they meet there, you have the union, and then you fire out the ajna center. And if you play with this, there's a Ouroboros effect. So essentially the caduceus, which is the electric and magnetic forces as they weave and wrap and rise through the chakra system, through the central, in and around the central channel, they meet, and then the caduceus Ouroboros is itself, and that's where you get this cancellation, or this harmonic of electric and magnetic when they meet fully and end up canceling each other out. And this produces, it's one way of producing the akasha, and that's where you'll get the indigo or violet type of display in the center of the head. And then you're off to the races when it comes to the higher aspects of spiritual growth. So this is from the form-up type of training. And when we are exploring this, we need to consider what that means. When you're working with form, you're working with the 10,000 things, with the many things, the infinite things, and hopefully trying to set causes in place that will allow for a softening off of the inhibitions which hold us back from our growth, all of ourselves that are blocking us, and then we can start to rise through finer and finer aspects of the vibrational scale. So when we are working from the bottom up, from form up, this would be things like sutras. This is very interesting to read. You can read through a sutra and it will give you all types of conduct of mind, conduct of emotion, conduct of action, and that you adhere to, and there'll be lists and lists and lists of these rules. And then within that, the fruit of those practices is also spoken about. Now, there's another method of learning this and achieving this, and that is through direct transmission of the space, the frequency, the view that you are trying to touch. So that would be where you receive, say, an empowerment or a transmission of the deity you might be practicing with, and then you practice with that frequency, with that energy, and you align to it. You come into resonance with it mentally, astrally, and physically through the bodies, through the centers, through the fields. Everything starts to realign and reform. And one of the very fascinating things that you'll find if you receive transmission and you hold out on reading the sutras for, a couple years, is that when you do read the sutras and you read the codes of conduct that are, and the lessons that come from these deities, you find that you've very often already come into resonance with those very codes of conduct and with those lessons. They've already become a part of you. So that would be an example, receiving transmission, of top-down training. That's where you tap into the frequency that you're looking for, and then you find coherence with that frequency mentally, astrally, and vitally. And this is a much more painful process to go through, because the contrast between you and that frequency is quite strong. So it's much more painful, but it's also much faster, the route of transmission. Going from form up is less painful, but slower, and it's easier to miss the mark because you're trying to set causes into place that will give rise to that frequency. It's tricky. That's where having a teacher to point out all those causes and to bring them into fruition in an accurate way can be helpful. When you're working with transmission, things are a little bit different, and it's already there, so you're tuned to that frequency. You've been magnetized to it, and then now the only thing that's in the way of that frequency and where you're at now is you. And so that is why it is a little bit more of a painful process, but certainly can be much faster. Now, when it comes to the astral body, the astral field, and the center of the astral body, usually the heart center. Oops, sorry for smacking the mic there. Sometimes it is seen as the solar plexus area, and in many Hermetic type of traditions, you actually end up raising, and in the chakra systems as well, you end up raising the solar plexus power into the heart center anyway as you're working through this. Now, heart-centered teachings are often, some will say hidden or just pushed into the background a little bit. And this can be for a number of reasons. Now, if it's being expressed as hidden teachings, that's usually because of aspects of power that can occur when you're aligning the field of the heart, which is quite expansive and quite powerful, especially in the astral streams of energy. The mind as well, incredibly powerful, but functioning, of course, at a different level and layer of the vibrational scale. One of the big reasons that the teachings around the heart center and that encouraging people to focus on the heart center might be discouraged is so that you don't, give yourself a heart attack when you're inducing a bunch of coarser energy to be in that area. So depending on the development of the student and the refinement of what their baseline frequency might be, when training the heart center, that makes a really, really big difference, because when we're working, say, with the chakras, very often that work, because you read about it and it might be exciting, it will be done from the perspective of a coarse life force. And this is where most of the, you see like a lot of the modern, for example, like Kundalini schools will, there's a lot of the students go a little nutty, and you're working a very coarse energy through the chakras. Now you want to be able to work every layer of the vibrational scale through that. And really, when you start working with the chakras, that comes from the place of akasha. And that it's kind of like a bit of a universal safety mechanism, can be, because you want to have a very clear difference between the layers of the vibrational scale and what is being stimulated through those layers. So there can be a safety component to this, and you want people to reach a certain level of refinement and of awareness before encouraging exploration that could cause damage. Now, the heart center can often be looked at as a kind of like a portal or a bridge, and it's definitely can be that. When we're looking at it from this perspective, it's because it lies in the center. So say like Merkaba teachings and practices, the heart is the center of the 7 chakras. So it can act as a bridge. And this is a stage of union, is that freeing of the heart or opening of the heart. And then there's a union that occurs where the bottom is able to meet the top, right, through that center. There's layers and layers and layers of this. So really what we are working on there, say from the perspective of the three bodies and the matrices being open and malleable enough that we can realign and reorganize into coherent resonance with higher sources of energy and light. This is due to a free flow of these energies through the matrices in such a way that we end up spiritualizing the mind, spiritualizing the astral body and field, the soul, and through that spiritualizing the body. So the astral body in this sense becomes a bit of a pivot point, and this pivot point allows higher and lower to communicate. And eventually this isn't seen from this perspective, right? So this is an opening. It is not necessarily something that we really need to stick to. The idea always is constant evolution. So synchronization of the bodies and the fields, along with the opening of the matrices, this paves the way for free flow, right? Up and down the vibrational scale, free flow of inspired light up and down the vibrational scale, which allows for that higher light, these higher light bodies, as you start to tap into them. And of course, if you're receiving transmission, this will be a fair bit faster. This allows that energy to move with ease, smoothly, through the centers, the bodies, the fields, reorganize it. And also for the densities that are currently stuck to move smoothly out of their current bodies, centers and fields, and be metabolized out of the body into light. And this becomes a very solid framework that you can use for as long as you need a framework to lean into. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful and informative when it comes to the light body activation. And for training, please check out the website. There are courses and retreats, workshops, all that information is there. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, thanks a lot. Bye.